Your husband and I are becoming a family. We're having a baby. That's what my sister announced at my anniversary dinner while sitting next to my husband. Too bad I had proof of his vasectomy and exposed her real affair in front of the whole family. Hey Reddit, buckle up! So I just turned what should have been my wedding anniversary into a live-action demolition derby for my cheating husband, my entitled sister, and her side piece. Imagine sitting at dinner, smiling while dropping receipts about a vasectomy, fake pregnancy, and a family betrayal so big it made the waiter freeze mid-step. Yeah, that was me. Here's how it all went down. I'll be real with you. My family's always had a favorite, and it wasn't me. I, Zara, 31 female. The reliable one. The kid who got A's, won debate trophies, stayed out of trouble. My parents, Linda and Robert, they didn't exactly ignore me, but the way they lit up for my younger sister Olivia? Whole different level. From the jump, Olivia was treated like she came out of the womb holding a crown. My straight A's? Dad would grunt, "Nice job," without looking up from the paper. Olivia scribbled a stick figure with crayons. Mom acted like she'd just birthed the next Da Vinci. They'd hang her junk art on the fridge like it belonged in the Smithsonian. It wasn't just school either. Birthdays? Olivia got the bigger parties with ponies and bounce houses. Me, pizza, cake, and invite a couple friends. Even stupid stuff like cake slices. I'd save mine for later, come back, and poof, gone. Olivia licking her fingers. Mom would scold me for not sharing. Sharing. Right. Funny how that rule only went one way. Olivia had this pattern. If I liked it, she wanted it. My teddy bear ended up in her bed. My sweater I saved up weeks for vanished, then magically reappeared on her Instagram selfies. I'd land a lead in the school play. Suddenly she's discovering her passion for acting, and my parents rush her into expensive lessons. If I had it, she had to take it. By the time high school ended, I was suffocating. Every win I earned, Olivia found a way to hijack. And my parents just let her. Hell, they encouraged it. The message was clear. Zara handles herself. Olivia needs the spotlight. So I bolted away. It was the first breath of actual freedom I ever had. No Olivia stealing my clothes. No parents comparing me to their little prodigy. Just me, finally existing without her shadow hanging over everything. College was the reset button I didn't know I needed. I made real friends. People who actually noticed me, not just Olivia's older sister. I discovered I was damn good at marketing, and I found a career path I liked. I could breathe. And then came Vernon. Back then, he wasn't the clown he'd turn into. He was this nervous guy who walked into my marketing seminar like his brain was 2 steps behind his body. Spilled his coffee all over my notes the first time we spoke. Most people would have snapped. I laughed because the dude looked like he wanted to dig his own grave right there. He offered to buy me dinner to make up for it. That dinner turned into breakfast because we literally talked until the sun came up. He told me stuff I'd never heard from anyone before. You get me. Like, actually get me. For once, I wasn't invisible. Wasn't second place. I fell hard. Fast forward, we graduate, land decent jobs, move to Chicago, buy a little place. 2 years later, Vernon proposes at sunrise on Lake Michigan. Yeah, it was cheesy. Yeah, I said yes. Because for once in my life, it felt like I had something Olivia couldn't ruin. Except, spoiler, Olivia always finds a way. The wedding was my first reminder. My mom basically guilt-tripped me into making Olivia my maid of honor. It would break her heart if you didn't. Translation: protect Olivia's ego at all costs. Against my better judgment, I caved. Should have said no. Should have trusted my gut. Because Olivia didn't just support me. She hijacked the spotlight as usual. At my bridal shower, she showed up in a white dress. A white dress. Who even does that? Everyone awkwardly looked at me like, "Are you cool with this?" I gritted my teeth and smiled, because I wasn't about to give her the meltdown she wanted. At the rehearsal dinner, she gave a toast. You'd think it was about me, right? Nope. It was a 10-minute TED Talk about how hard it is living up to Zara's example and how she's finding her own path. 10 minutes of me sitting there while my wedding rehearsal turned into Olivia's therapy session. And on the actual wedding day, she made her entrance late to photos, so everyone was waiting on her. During the vows, she sobbed louder than my mom. Later at the reception, she was all over Vernon's groomsmen, laughing, touching arms, soaking in attention that wasn't hers. Back then, it was just her usual spotlight disease. Nothing had started yet. The real mess kicked off years later. Vernon noticed. He squeezed my hand and whispered, "Ignore her. She's just jealous." At the time, I believed him. Wanted to believe him. I told myself Olivia was just being Olivia. Messy, selfish, desperate for the spotlight. So I brushed it off. Told myself that once the wedding was over, I'd finally built a life Olivia couldn't touch. My house, my marriage, my happily ever after. And for a while, that's what it felt like. The first couple years of marriage were good. Vernon and I settled into our little house in the suburbs, did the normal adult routine, upgrading from ramen to takeout, fighting over Netflix shows, buying furniture that wasn't from the clearance aisle. I actually thought we had a rhythm going. We weren't flashy, but I liked it that way. We both had solid jobs. I was moving up in marketing. He was climbing his ladder too. We talked about kids someday, but nothing urgent. I figured we had time. Meanwhile, Olivia was floating around like the chaos magnet she always was. She got a job in pharmaceutical sales, which from what I could tell meant posting pictures of herself at work dinners and flirting her way into bonuses. Every time we saw her at family gatherings, she was bragging about some conference she networked at. Classic Olivia. Zero humility, all spotlight. I kept her at arm's length. I didn't trust her, but I also wasn't about to let her infect my marriage. At least that's what I told myself. Then Vernon started changing. At first, it was small stuff, coming home later than usual, saying he had to stay at the office because of a big project. Totally normal excuses on paper. But after a few weeks, the pattern stuck. He'd roll in late, loosen his tie, and flop on the couch like he'd just cured cancer. When I asked what the project was, he kept it vague. Deadlines. Stress. You know how it is. I knew how it wasn't. Then came the phone thing. He used to leave it on the counter, no problem. Suddenly it was face down all the time. Notifications silenced. I'd walk into the room and he'd tilt the screen away like I was about to hack the Pentagon, instead of asking what we were eating for dinner. Passwords changed too. Out of nowhere, everything needed a new login. His laptop, his email, stuff we used to share access to, he suddenly updated. When I asked, he shrugged it off. IT required it. Sure, because IT specifically told you to hide things from your wife. Meanwhile, intimacy tanked. And I don't mean the Hollywood version where one person sighs dramatically. I mean real distance. He stopped making jokes with me in the kitchen. We didn't sit on the couch together anymore. Nights in bed felt like we were two strangers. Every time I brought it up, he had the same canned line. It's just stress. Once this project is over, things will go back to normal. I heard that so many times it could have been his ringtone, but nothing went back. It just got worse. That's when I started noticing other details. Perfume. Not mine. Not anything I owned. On his shirts, his jacket, even the car once. A scent too strong to ignore. And then there was the hair. Long, blonde, obvious. I don't have blonde hair. I don't even have friends with blonde hair. Olivia, though. Walking shampoo commercial. I tried to convince myself I was being paranoid. Childhood baggage messing with my head. After all, Olivia was around sometimes at family stuff, but Vernon? With her? No way. I pushed it down, telling myself not to be that wife, but my gut wasn't buying it. The final shove was when I borrowed Vernon's laptop one afternoon, after mine crashed before a big presentation. A notification popped up. Email from Olivia. Subject line. Last night. I froze. Hand on the mouse. I wanted to look away, pretend I didn't see it, but I clicked. What I read. Explicit. Way too explicit. And definitely not siblings-in-law bonding. I won't give you the details, but let's just say it described things happening in his office after hours. Things I sure as hell wasn't invited to. That was the moment the marriage I thought I had collapsed in my head. I shut the laptop. I breathed. And I decided, if Olivia and Vernon wanted to play dirty, fine. But I wasn't going to play dumb. I needed leverage. I needed proof that would stick. Not just an email that they could spin as misunderstood or taken out of context. Because cheaters love twisting reality until you doubt yourself. I wasn't giving them that chance. So I called in backup. Enter Harris, private investigator, professional snoop. Guy could dig into a sealed vault if you asked nicely. I hired him and told him exactly what I needed. Photos, logs, receipts, proof that nobody could deny. And Harris delivered. Over the next several weeks, he documented Vernon visiting Olivia's apartment nearly 24 times. Carrier call logs and screenshots of late-night texts. Receipts for dinners, jewelry, including a bracelet Olivia wore to a family gathering and bragged about getting from a client. Yeah, right. Every detail was logged, time-stamped, backed up. Harris handed me a file thick enough to choke on. He said, if you ever wanted to bury someone in court, this would do it. That's when I brought Dana into the picture. Divorce attorney. Not just any attorney. One of the best in the city. I slid the file across her desk. She flipped through it, eyebrows climbing. He's finished, she said flatly. Music to my ears. I also showed her an insurance explanation of benefits from our shared plan and the matching HSA card receipt from 3 years ago, both listing a urology procedure in Vernon's name. We don't need his full medical file, Dana said. This is enough for now. If this goes to court, we'll get formal confirmation and discovery. Dana told me to sit tight. Don't confront yet. Build the case, protect my assets, let Vernon dig his own grave. I did exactly that. I locked down finances, made copies of everything important, and started quietly preparing for war. Because here's the thing. Olivia's entire life has been about taking what's mine. And Vernon, he was dumb enough to hand himself over. But this time, they weren't walking away clean. Our anniversary was coming up. A nice family dinner organized by my parents at my favorite restaurant. The perfect stage. And if Olivia couldn't resist making it about her, like I knew she wouldn't, then I'd be ready. She wanted attention? Fine. She was about to get more than she bargained for. And here's the thing about Olivia. She's allergic to staying quiet. Give her 5 people in a room, and she'll find a way to make herself the star. Our anniversary dinner was already on my parents' calendar, and I knew she wouldn't be able to resist pulling some stunt. That's how she's wired. But unlike most people in my family, I wasn't walking into this blind. I had Harris. If Vernon thought he was smooth, Harris proved he wasn't even trying. The guy sent me photos that looked like they belonged in a reality show. Vernon walking into Olivia's building late at night. Vernon leaving early in the morning. Same car, same jacket, same guilty look on his face. 27 different visits logged in 1 month. It wasn't just photos. Harris pulled the carrier's itemized call logs and time-stamped text threads. Hour-long calls at 11:45 p.m., 1 a.m., 2:30 a.m. When Harris dropped the folder on my table, I flipped through it page by page, and you know what? I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so painfully sloppy. Vernon wasn't just cheating, he was leaving breadcrumbs big enough for a toddler to follow. At home, I played it cool. Vernon would stroll in late, mumble something about deadlines, and I'd nod like a supportive wife. Meanwhile, I started protecting myself. I quietly moved some personal items out of the house. Family heirlooms, important documents, things I wasn't about to risk losing in a messy blow-up. Vernon was too distracted to notice. I set up a separate bank account in my name, shifted my direct deposit there, and updated every password I owned. Vernon still thought he was in control. That's the funny part. He thought he was pulling one over on me when really he was just making it easier. The more arrogant he got, the sloppier he became. Olivia, for her part, wasn't subtle either. She'd drop little digs at family dinners. Vernon works so hard, doesn't he, Zara? He's such a dedicated guy. She'd say it with that smirk like she was in on some private joke. Everyone else probably thought she was being complimentary. I knew exactly what she was doing, and I didn't give her the satisfaction of reacting. I smiled, nodded, let her believe she was clever. Because when people like Olivia think they're winning, they get reckless. It was weird. Instead of breaking me down, all of this started giving me clarity. For the first time, I wasn't reacting to Olivia or Vernon. I wasn't chasing after their mess trying to keep up. I was ahead. 10 steps. Watching them play checkers while I lined up chess moves. The silence was the best part. Vernon didn't ask why I wasn't nagging him. Olivia didn't question why I seemed unbothered. They thought I was clueless. That's how you know you're winning, when your enemy doesn't even realize the game started. One night, Vernon came home later than usual. His shirt smelled like perfume that wasn't mine. He tossed his keys on the counter, kissed my cheek half-heartedly, and muttered about being exhausted. I almost laughed in his face. Not because it hurt anymore, but because I knew exactly where he'd been, and with who. He didn't know I could literally print the proof. That's when it hit me. They weren't just cheating. They were amateurs. And amateurs always get caught. So I kept prepping. Dana had paperwork ready. Harris kept feeding me details. My accounts were secure. My bases were covered. On the outside, everything looked stable. Vernon thought I was the steady wife keeping the house running. Olivia thought she was getting away with stealing another piece of my life. What they didn't know? The trap was already set. And soon enough, they'd walk straight into it. The anniversary dinner was set at one of those look how successful we are restaurants my parents loved. Dim lighting, overpriced appetizers, waiters who act like they're auditioning for Broadway. My dad insisted on making it a family tradition. Big dinner every year to celebrate me and Vernon. The irony this time? I couldn't have picked a better stage if I tried. I showed up early. Hair done, outfit sharp, calm as could be. Inside, I wasn't shaking or nervous. I was actually kind of excited. You know that feeling when you know the ending to a movie but no one else does? That was me. They all arrived in their usual order. My mom and dad first, sitting down and lecturing the waiter about water temperature. Olivia next, sliding in like she owned the place, fake laugh echoing across the room. And then Vernon, 10 minutes late, fumbling with his phone like he was closing million-dollar deals instead of covering tracks. We ordered, small talk happened, and Olivia kept stealing glances at me. She thought she was in charge of the night. She thought she was about to pull some power move and put me down. I just let her talk. She started with her usual jabs. Zara, you always play it so safe? Vernon must get bored sometimes. A laugh here, a smirk there. She thought she was subtle. She wasn't. I just smiled and nodded. You're right, Olivia. Vernon does get bored. But don't worry. He's found creative ways to entertain himself. Vernon coughed on his drink. Olivia froze for a second, then covered with another laugh. My parents looked confused but brushed it off like it was just my sarcasm. That's when Olivia tried to turn up the heat. She leaned across the table, looked right at me and said, You know, Zara, not every man has the stamina to keep a marriage exciting after all these years. Some men need other outlets. She thought she was slick. She thought she had the knife. I smiled so wide it must have unnerved her. That's true. Some men really do need other outlets. Funny you mention that, Olivia. I reached into my bag and pulled out Harris's folder. Now, I didn't slam it down like in movies. That's dramatic. Instead, I slid it across the table, calm as ever. Why don't you go ahead and open that, since you like attention so much? Olivia frowned, pretending she was above it. My dad asked what was going on. Vernon shifted in his seat, color draining out of his face. She finally opened it, photo after photo after photo. Vernon entering her building at 1 a.m. Vernon leaving in the morning looking like a raccoon. Phone logs. Receipts. The works. Her smirk melted so fast it was almost impressive. She flipped through page after page, face going pale. Vernon reached out like he could snatch it away, but I pulled another copy from my bag and dropped it on the table in front of my parents. Don't worry, I came prepared. That one's yours. The table went dead quiet. The only sound was the clink of glasses from other diners who had no idea they were witnessing a live implosion. My dad broke the silence. Vernon, what is this? Vernon stammered. It's not what it looks like. Classic line. Might as well tattoo that on his forehead. I leaned back in my chair, crossed my arms, and said, You're right. It's not what it looks like. It's worse. Because it's not just some random woman, Dad. It's Olivia, your other daughter. Boom. Table cracked in half with that one. My mom gasped loud enough to draw stares. My dad looked like he aged 10 years in 10 seconds. Olivia's hand shook as she tried to shove the photos back into the folder, but there was no hiding it. And me? I was calm, savage calm. The kind that makes people more nervous than if you're screaming. Vernon finally found his voice. Zara, we can talk about this at home. You didn't need to bring family into it. I tilted my head at him. Home? Oh, Vernon. You really think you're coming back to my house after this? No. You'll be lucky if you leave this table with your wallet. Olivia tried to recover, stuttering some excuse about loneliness and connection. I cut her off with a laugh. Save it, Olivia. Nobody here cares about your TED Talk on forbidden love. You've been sloppy, selfish, and honestly, predictable. I knew this was coming the moment you started making your little digs at me. She went red. My dad slammed his fist on the table. I can't believe you'd betray your sister like this. Olivia tried to cry, but it wasn't working. Vernon looked like he was hoping the ground would swallow him. I leaned forward, lowered my voice, and said, You two wanted to play house behind my back. Fine. But you don't get to play me for a fool. I've got the proof, I've got the lawyer, and I've got no patience left. Then I set down a copy of the draft divorce paperwork on Vernon's plate and said, Happy anniversary. The official service will hit you tomorrow morning. The waiter showed up right then, holding a tray of appetizers. Poor guy froze mid-step when he saw Vernon's face. I gave him a smile. You can leave those here? He'll need the comfort food. The truth wasn't just out, it was scorched into the table for everyone to see. And the best part? That was just the opening act. Because little sweet Olivia pounced on the silence like a starving cat. Her voice shook, but she tried to sound righteous. You don't get it, Zara. This isn't some fling. Vernon and I are family. We're having a baby. The table went dead quiet. Even the clinking of silverware from the other tables seemed to stop. Mom's fork slipped out of her hand and hit the plate. Dad looked like he was about to choke on his water. I leaned back in my chair, pretending to think. Then I smiled. Wow, a baby? That's cute. Olivia's face softened like she thought I was about to cave. Vernon's jaw clenched so tight I thought he'd crack a tooth. Yeah, Olivia pressed on, trying to gather confidence. So maybe you should stop acting like you're better than me. Vernon loves me. We're starting a family. I tapped my nails against the table. Funny thing about families, though, they usually require a working set of equipment. Don't they, Vernon? He froze. I reached into my purse and pulled out 2 documents. An insurance explanation of benefits from our shared plan, mailed to our house, and the matching HSA receipt. I slid them across the table. That, I said, is the insurance EOB for Vernon's vasectomy. Done 3 years ago. You know, right after he told me he didn't want kids. Dad leaned in, his eyes narrowing on the paper. Olivia snatched it up, her hands shaking as she read. No, this isn't real, she stammered. Oh, it's real, I cut her off. Insurance billing doesn't lie, and the HSA receipt matches the date. Vernon can't father a baby. The color drained from Olivia's face. Mom covered her mouth with her hand. Vernon looked like someone just ripped his spine out. I leaned forward, voice sharp and sarcastic. So, Olivia, want to tell us who the actual daddy is? Or should I? Her eyes darted around, panic setting in. She looked at Vernon like maybe he'd save her, but he was too busy sinking into his chair. I smirked. Fine, I'll help. His name's Larry, works in pharma, likes to flash his money and his fake Rolex at bars. Ring a bell? Dad actually slammed his hand on the table. Olivia, is this true? Olivia's lips trembled. It's not like that, Dad. Oh, it's exactly like that. I cut her off again. You've been bouncing between my husband and Larry like some reality TV reject. Only problem is you didn't do your homework. Vernon snipped. And now you're caught with your little fantasy pregnancy pinned on the wrong guy. Mom's voice finally cracked through. Olivia, how could you drag this family into this disgrace? Olivia started to cry, mascara streaking down her cheeks, muttering something about love and mistakes. Vernon buried his face in his hands. I grabbed a breadstick off the table, snapped it in half, and dropped it on my plate. That's about the size of your relationship right now. Broken. Worthless. The waiter came back to check on us. Poor guy looked like he'd walked into a car crash. Does anyone want dessert? I grinned at him. Yeah, bring me the chocolate lava cake. I'm celebrating. Dad and Mom just stared, their golden child crumbling in front of them. Vernon sat there like a ghost, silent, destroyed. Olivia sobbed into her napkin, humiliated beyond repair. I raised my water glass. 2 anniversaries, and to not being the fool at the table. I clinked my glass against the empty air and took a sip, dragging it out just to twist the knife. Vernon didn't even move. Olivia was crumpled in her chair, blotting her face with a napkin, like it could wipe away the disaster she'd just created. My parents sat frozen, both of them staring like they weren't sure if they should comfort her or disown her right on the spot. I set the glass down with a sharp clink. You know, I said, keeping my voice calm, for months I thought maybe I was crazy. The late nights, the weird excuses, you 2 disappearing at family gatherings, but turns out, I was just giving you both too much credit. Dad finally found his voice, and it came out hard and low. Olivia, you disgust me. And you, he jabbed a finger at Vernon, you've humiliated this entire family. Mom tried to play peacemaker, because that's her default. Maybe we should... No, I cut in, holding my hand up. No sweeping this under the rug. Olivia wanted center stage tonight, she got it. Vernon wanted to play double life, well, curtains down. They've both earned their standing ovation. The waiter reappeared with my lava cake, bless his soul, and set it in front of me like he was feeding a queen at her coronation. I grabbed a fork and dug in. Perfect. Bitter but sweet at the same time. Kind of like tonight, huh? Olivia broke. You don't understand, Zara, she sobbed. Larry said he wanted a future, and Vernon, he said he loved me. Larry? Dad's head snapped back like she just spit acid at him. You admit it? Olivia's shoulders slumped. She knew it was over. Yeah, I answered for her, savoring another bite of cake. Larry the pharma bro, your shining knight in discount cologne. Vernon slammed his fist on the table. Shut up, Zara. I didn't even flinch. Why? Afraid the truth's too loud in public? Should have thought about that before sneaking around with my sister. Oh, and by the way, I leaned forward, keeping my voice sharp. You can't even pull the she trapped me card. You knew damn well you'd been snipped. You just didn't care who you dragged down with you. Dad sat back, disgust written all over his face. You are both a disgrace. He shook his head like he was trying to erase the image from his brain. Mom reached for Olivia's hand, but even she looked sick. Why would you do this to your own sister? Olivia just shook her head, mumbling nonsense through her tears. Vernon stayed silent, staring at the floor like maybe it would swallow him. I leaned back, crossing my arms. Funny, isn't it? You always hear about guys cheating with their wife's sister, but you never expect to see it happen in your own house? And the best part? I raised my fork in Olivia's direction. She thought she could pull the pregnancy sympathy card, as if I hadn't already stacked my deck. Amateur hour. Dad pushed his chair back so hard it scraped the floor. I'm done. I don't want to hear another word out of either of you tonight. Zara. He turned to me, his voice softening. You've handled yourself better than I ever could. I'm sorry you've had to endure this. Mom looked like she wanted to defend Olivia, but the look on Dad's face kept her quiet. I dabbed my lips with a napkin and stood, slow and deliberate. Well, this has been enlightening, but I think the anniversary party's over. Vernon, Olivia, you two can explain yourselves to Mom and Dad later, if they're still taking your calls. As for me, I grabbed my bag. I've got better things to do than babysit liars. I walked out first, calm and steady, the way you're supposed to after you've dropped the final bomb. The restaurant was quiet, a few heads turning as I passed. Let them stare. Let them wonder. Outside, the cool night air hit my face, and for the first time in months, I felt light, clean, free. I pulled out my phone, shot off a quick text to Harris, the PI. All done. They're finished. By the time I got to my car, Vernon had stumbled out behind me. Zara, wait! His voice cracked, desperate. I stopped, turned slowly, one eyebrow raised. What could you possibly have to say? He jogged up, sweat on his forehead, panic all over him. I made a mistake. Please, we can fix this. I laughed, sharp and cold. Fix this? Vernon, you couldn't fix a flat tire without screwing it up. You cheated with my sister, lied for months, let her humiliate herself with a fake pregnancy, and thought I'd just... What? Take you back? Nah, you're finished. Both of you. He reached for my arm, and I stepped back. Don't touch me. Ever again. His face fell, and for a moment, I almost saw fear in his eyes. Not fear of me leaving, but fear of losing everything. Good. He deserved it. Olivia stumbled out next, mascara smeared, her voice high-pitched and whiny. Zara, please don't tell everyone. Don't ruin me. Ruin you, I cut her off, my voice low and sharp. You did that yourself the moment you went after my husband. I just gave you the stage lighting. Consider it your encore. Mom and Dad came out behind her, Dad's hand firm on his daughter's arm. Enough, he snapped. We'll deal with this at home. I turned to my parents, softened just enough. Don't blame yourselves. You raised me to be strong. I just had to prove it. Dad gave me a short nod. And you did. I left them standing there in the parking lot. Olivia crying. Vernon hollow. My parents torn between fury and shame. I slid into my car, started the engine, and let the satisfaction settle in my chest. This wasn't just revenge. It was closure. And watching the golden child of the family shatter in front of our parents? That was the cherry on top of my lava cake. When I pulled out of that restaurant parking lot, I thought maybe that would be it. I'd burned them down in front of my parents, wrecked Vernon's tough guy act, and snapped Olivia's little golden child crown in half. But the universe has a way of tossing in bonus rounds when you play your cards right. By the next morning, word was already spreading. Not because of me, I hadn't told a soul outside the family, but because Vernon and Olivia couldn't keep their mess quiet. Apparently, Vernon didn't show up to work, and his boss noticed. He pinged a mutual through their golf group, and by lunch the gossip engine was wildfire. Turns out, people love hearing that Mr. Family Man had been sleeping with his wife's sister. Small world. Tight industry. Loud group chats. I sat on my couch sipping coffee, scrolling through texts from friends asking if the rumors were true. I didn't reply. Why ruin the suspense? Let them piece it together. Around noon, Mom called. Her voice was tight, like she'd been crying. Zara, your father's furious. He says Olivia's not welcome in the house anymore. She's staying at a hotel. I smirked. Guess she should have thought twice before trying to play house with Vernon. Zara, Mom sighed, like she wanted to defend Olivia but couldn't. This whole thing, it's tearing us apart. No, I corrected. They tore us apart. I just stopped pretending. That night, I got another call. This one from Harris, my PI. You'll like this, he said, voice amused. Larry's wife just filed for separation. Seems she caught wind of his extracurriculars. I leaned back on the couch, grinning. So Olivia's backup plan just blew up too? Pretty much. And since Vernon's broken jobless, I'd say your sister is officially screwed. I couldn't have scripted it better. The fallout kept snowballing. Vernon tried calling me a dozen times over the next week, begging to talk. I blocked him. Olivia texted me paragraphs about how she was sorry and confused and how Larry lied to her. I ignored those too. She'd been the princess all her life. This was her first taste of living like the rest of us, without Daddy smoothing over her mistakes. Meanwhile, I was doing fine. Better than fine. My boss had heard through Jason, the co-worker who'd been quietly cheering me on, that I'd handled a personal crisis like a champ. Next thing I knew, I was offered lead on a project I'd been chasing for months. Funny how dumping dead weight clears space for upgrades. A week later, Dad invited me to dinner. Just me, not Olivia. When I walked in, he pulled me into a hug, something he hadn't done since I was a kid. "You deserve better, Zara," he said. "And for what it's worth, I'm proud of how you handled yourself." Mom chimed in, softer but still ashamed. "Your father's right. I'm sorry for how much we looked the other way with Olivia over the years. Maybe we should have been tougher." "You think?" I shot back, half joking. Better late than never, I guess. It felt good. Not because I needed their validation, but because for once the golden child wasn't getting all the sympathy. As for Vernon, he spiraled. I heard from mutuals that his boss canned him after the affair rumors got too loud. Not exactly the look they wanted for a company built on trust and family values. He tried crashing at a buddy's place, but even they kicked him out after a few days. Nobody wants to host a man who blew up his marriage with his sister-in-law. Olivia wasn't much better off. Larry dumped her fast once his own wife filed papers. Without Vernon, without Larry, and without her parents backing her, she was suddenly on her own. Last I heard, she was looking at some low-end apartment complex across town. Me? I wasn't gloating out loud, but inside, it was satisfying watching the universe collect the debt they owed me. A couple of weeks later, Jason asked me to grab lunch. Nothing fancy, just burgers near the office. But halfway through, he leaned across the table and said, "For what it's worth, you handled that whole thing like a pro. Most people would have lost their minds. You just flipped the board." I laughed. Guess I had some pent-up sarcasm to unload. He smiled. "It looks good on you. Confidence suits you. I won't lie. That hit different. Not because I needed a rebound, but because it reminded me I was still someone worth chasing, not just surviving. By the time my anniversary month ended, my life looked nothing like it had before. Vernon was gone. Olivia was disgraced. My parents finally saw me as the one who kept her dignity. And I was moving forward, sharper, freer, and more unapologetic than ever. Sometimes revenge is messy, drawn out, dramatic. Mine, it was clean, surgical. One dinner, one reveal, one checkmate. I'll never forget the look on Vernon's face when I raised that glass and toasted to not being the fool, or the way Olivia's voice cracked when she realized her pregnancy ploy had gone nuclear on her instead. Those images are permanent tattoos on my memory, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. So yeah, happy anniversary to me. The day my marriage ended was the day my freedom began. And if you ask me, I'd take lava cake and a quiet life over lies and betrayal any day of the week. Because here's the truth no one wants to admit. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's watching them destroy themselves while you sit back, eat dessert, and smile. And that's exactly what I did.